So with Superman 2025 on its way to cinemas, I thought we'd go back and see where it all began. So let's start with the original, the very first Superman movie. So Superman was a film released in 1978 starring Marlon Brando, Christopher Reeve and Gene Hackman, directed by Richard Donner. Now it seems crazy now that Marlon Brando got top billing in this movie, but Christopher Reeve in this film just it's where he's born. The acting performances in this movie are absolutely incredible, and Christopher Reeve just steals it completely, as he should do as the main character, but he demonstrates that he understood the assignment of what it is to play Superman and Clark Kent. This is an amazing movie and one that really set up the whole superhero genre as we know it now. This one just it walked so all the other ones could run. So this movie starts off on planet Krypton with Jor-El going through the trial of General Zod and his minions, and this in turn will actually come into play later on in the series. Jor-El with the council, he presents the evidence and the crimes of General Zod in the fact that he sort of tried a coup to take over the council and therefore take over governance of the planet. This was ultimately unsuccessful, and that's what's led him into this situation. He then gets put into the Phantom Zone with his minions, not before trying to plead with Jor-El to join his cause, which is unsuccessful. Jor-El sent him off to prison. Now, in Zod's plea with Jor-El to get him on side, he does make mention of him disagreeing with the council from time to time, and that's shown in the very next scene with Jor-El presenting his findings that the planet is going to die. The council don't agree with his findings and believe that whilst his work is true and he has uncovered sort of facts behind it, they don't agree with his conclusions, so therefore just ignore his concerns that the planet is going to die. Therefore, Jor-El makes the promise that in order to avoid any accusations of insurrection, he will not leave the planet, neither will his wife. We then see Jor-El back with Lara at their home place with Kal-El as a baby. They place him into the spaceship, and it's explained that it's a conscious decision to send him to Earth because not only will he look like everybody else there, but he'll also be invulnerable and will not be able to succumb to any harm. So Kal-El is sent to Earth. He crash lands in Smallville, just right next to where Jonathan and Martha Kent are driving their car along the road. They notice it and they stop as they burst a tyre, and a boy gets out of the spaceship after some time has passed since he set off on his journey. And the Kents decide to take him in as one, especially after he demonstrates that he is not a normal baby by lifting up the car. We then start to see Clark Kent grow throughout the years, mainly focusing on his adolescence at his time in high school. Now, straight away, we see that he's not someone who is at the forefront of the attention. He's very much in the background. And that's demonstrated with him washing the kit of the high school football team and not being able to go out on a date with girls because other guys are trying to essentially undermine him and bully him and take the girl for themselves. And that leaves him frustrated because he has all these abilities and all these things he could do, which he's unable to show off because of, obviously, the fact he's grown up or been told not to. The things get a little bit too much, so he shows off by running home and beating the high school football guys to where it is they're going, and sort of, has a bit of a laugh and a joke at it, but is immediately humbled by Jonathan Kent in telling him he's here for a reason, and those reasons are bigger than what he wants to do at the moment just by showing off. And their concerns were that someone was going to come and take him away because of the things he could do, and that was the reason why he had to suppress what he could do, what his talents are, and in order to blend in with everybody else. But perhaps the biggest lesson of all is Jonathan Kent dying from a heart attack shortly after giving these words of wisdom. And it just brings home that no matter what talents and what abilities that Superman has, he cannot stop mortal people from dying. After the funeral, he discovers a Kryptonian crystal, which then leads him to go on a journey up to the North Pole, where he then creates the Fortress of Solitude by throwing that crystal into the snow. And it's here that he comes face to face with Jor-El, his actual father, in a hologram form, who then tells him or teaches him everything about his heritage and about his abilities and the rules about not engaging, in particular, not to interfere with human history. After 12 years, Superman is here, he's fully formed, and he knows all of his powers and what he can do. We then cut forward to Metropolis, where we first see Clark Kent as an adult being employed at the Daily Planet, where he's introduced to Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen by editor Perry White. And here we see the excellent portrayal of Clark Kent by Christopher Reeve and just his ability and talent in front of the camera. As Clark Kent, he hunches himself over, he makes himself seem a little bit more sort of nervous and withdrawn, unsure of himself, almost unable to form a cogent sentence, a bit like me, really. And as he goes on, he's almost constantly in the background. But we see that this is a conscious choice by Superman to portray himself like this. And it's shown when him and Lois come face to face with a guy pointing a gun at them. Now, Clark manages to catch the bullet and saves Lois, but pretends to faint as well, showing himself to be cowardly and unable to deal with these confrontation situations. So shortly after this, we are introduced to Lex Luthor, who again is portrayed beautifully by Gene Hackman. Gene Hackman's portrayal is very much showing nothing but contempt for those around him, showing himself to be the smartest person, not only in the room, but in the world, and is able to deduce facts quite well throughout it, not so it just comes across as plot convenience, but actually there is a route he takes to deduce these findings. And we start to get the seeds sort of sown about his grand master plan, in that he's focused in on purchasing real estate, which is what he has deemed to be the best way of making money, as a lesson that has been handed down by his father. So after this, we are then sort of treated to Superman in his full form, when Lois is involved in a plane crash at the top of the Daily Planet, and Superman comes to her rescue before basically travelling across the city and stopping multiple crimes, as well as doing the everyday superhero things like saving a cat out of a tree for a little small girl. We have a few gags about the possibility of him changing into it all in a phone box where there isn't one available, so he has to resort to a revolving door to do it. And the changes in this, the special effects are absolutely fantastic in this. Even though it's 1978, they are still superb how they managed to come up with ways to just bring us into that world, that superhero world. It's brilliant. So word travels about Superman's presence on planet Earth, and Perry White decides, I need someone there to go and interview him. And because of their interaction already, Superman sets up a date with Lois, or Clark Kent sets up a date with Lois and Superman. And during that time, she does an interview with him. Now, this interview, while it mainly is there to build up the sort of relationship between Lois and Superman, it does also aid the plot moving forward. In this interview, Superman provides details about his heritage, where he came from, how long ago it was when he came from there, but also some details about his weaknesses, as in he can't see through lead and other bits and pieces like that. And all of those details are used by Lex Luthor, who reads about them in the paper when they're published, to not only deduce that Superman is vulnerable, but also that there is a possibility that fragments from his world landed on planet Earth several years ago in the form of meteorites, which he coins the name of kryptonite. Lex Luthor quickly just goes back to his master plan to deviate some of the vectors on some missiles that are being moved across the country by the army, before then going back to his diabolical master plan against Superman. He issues a high frequency message that only Superman can hear, as well as dogs, and essentially threatens to poison the city unless Superman comes and meets him, which he does. During this interaction, Lex Luthor then unveils his master plan, in that he has brought up a load of real estate, or a lot of land, next to California, which is just desert. At the moment, it's pretty much worthless, but his plan is to launch missiles into the San Andreas Fault to cause a massive earthquake and essentially sink the expensive part of California into the sea. And therefore, his new real estate plot will become a lot more valuable, as it will become the new West Coast of America. Superman obviously knows that he needs to be stopped. However, there are two missiles which almost make it impossible for him to be able to stop both of them at the same time. But just to add to it, what Lex Luthor has done is he has created a kryptonite necklace almost. He's placed in a lead-lined chest and tricked Superman to opening it by pretending that the detonators for the missiles are inside. But luckily, one of the missiles is heading towards the mother of Miss Teschmacher, who is Gene Hackman's or Lex Luthor's love interest in this film. In order to stop that from happening, she helps Superman and rescues him from the kryptonite so that he'll go and save her mum, but promises that he go and does that first. He sends a New Jersey missile up into the sky. He then heads over to California, but it's too late to stop that from hitting the fault line. He then has to fly around and prevent any human casualties coming from the resulting earthquake. But unfortunately, he is not able to stop Lois from dying in the earthquake. However, what this does cause is a reaction in Superman to fly into space and fly backwards around the world against the axis quick enough to turn the Earth going around the other way. And before he does this, he is confronted with the mixed messages between his two father figures, in the first one being from Jor-El to not involve himself or not intervene in any human history, but also from Jonathan Kent saying that he's here for a reason, and perhaps this is the reason why he's here. So he reverses time just enough to save Lois Lane without severely impacting or going against human history by preventing the missiles from blowing up California. Once he's saved him, he then flies back, he apprehends Lex Luthor and takes him to prison, and that is it. That is the film finished. I'll say the acting performances in this film just drive it forward. Marlon Brando's portrayal of Jor-El is superb, as you would expect from Marlon Brando. There isn't really many times where he doesn't turn up for a role. But the world building is just so ahead of its time in the offhand way that Jor-El does the trial of General Zod, for that just to come in later on down the line. But this isn't involved in this film, and it's just almost something like a blink and you'll miss it reference, but it just adds something more to make that world a lot richer in its delivery. Lois Lane's portrayal as well is superb, almost that reporter that will stop at nothing to get the story, showing her to be working off the clock, on the clock, all the way round. And Christopher Reeve's performance is just absolutely incredible. And a lot of people praised Christian Bale's performance in the Batman series of him playing three characters, and Bruce Wayne as he is in the Batcave, Bruce Wayne as he is in public, and then Batman himself. But Christopher Reeve understood the fact that playing Superman is playing two different characters way before anybody else latched onto this whole idea. And you see him in one scene, he goes from Clark Kent to Superman on camera, and you see him physically adopt a different persona. And it is incredible. His voice is deeper, he's a lot taller, he's stood back, he's self-assured, he's confident in his delivery. And it's almost as if he's behind closed doors now, and he is just unshackled from having to hold himself back. And then Lois Lane comes back into the room, and you see him shrink physically, put the glasses back on. And yeah, it's amazing to watch. And it's hilarious as well watching him as Clark Kent. It's perhaps the best part of the film is him as Clark Kent. I did mention the special effects as well, but they are fantastic throughout this film. A lot of them are practical effects with like a helicopter crash or sort of scale models by the looks of it, with sort of flooding taking place and dams breaking. And it's great. And you can see that the film was particularly proud about the flying segments, with sort of putting a projector screen behind the actors flying in front of it. And now it does look slightly dated, but back in then, it's just almost groundbreaking with how they've managed to do it. And it just seems to be like, even though there were clearly limitations back in that time of what they could show, they didn't just work within those limitations, they broke them a lot of the time as well. The set designs, the costume designs, it is all fantastic. And it's almost, you can almost feel, just from the point of the opening sort of credits coming in and that theme just hitting you, you can just feel as though this was a celebration of finally being able to bring a character from comic book pages onto the big screen, and it was almost a monumental occasion, and you feel all of that. Overall, this film is absolutely fantastic, and it laid the groundwork for so many films coming afterwards, and I enjoyed every single minute of this film. And to me, it is everything that an origin movie should be. You focus in on the main character's origin, about their humble beginnings, how they grew up to be the hero you know and are now. You then take the time to focus in on who they are now as that hero, who their alter ego is, who they are when they are, doing their superhero bits and pieces. Develop the world around them at the same time and bring in those other characters, which it does in this with Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen. But then you also have a threat that superhero has to overcome. Single threat, not complicated, just quite simple in order to bring in with everything else the film has to tick off, and establishing a mainstay villain as well. And all of that is absolutely perfect in this film. It's done to the absolute perfection. And so for those reasons, I'm going to give this film a 5-star rating. The plot is fantastic on its own and the acting performances are absolutely stellar. But just for the fact that it was so ahead of its time and it laid the groundwork for everything we've got now, that deserves 5 stars on its own. So what did you guys think of Superman 1978? Whatever you guys thought, just pop it in the comments below. I'd love to read what you have to say. We'll be coming back again with Superman 2, but until then, you guys take it easy, and I'll catch you on the next one.